picture this. You are sitting across a polished mahogany table, right?
Okay, I am
And
picturing.
you are pitching an idea you have poured your absolute soul into for, at least the last 6 months.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Exactly. Or, maybe you are sitting in a dimly lit Italian restaurant on a first date.
Oh, the classic first date nerves.
Right. Your heart is beating just a little bit faster than usual, and you are looking right at the person across from you.
And they're looking right back.
They are looking right back. They are smiling. They are nodding. They are making this perfect, attentive eye contact with you.
Which is, honestly, exactly what you want to see in that moment.
It really is. And you are sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I have got this. They are totally buying what I'm saying.
Because it is the ultimate feeling of validation, As humans, we are just desperate for that visual confirmation that we're being accepted.
We really are. But, and this is the hook for today, what if you are looking in the completely wrong place? Yeah. What if I told you that by looking at their face to find out what they are actually thinking, you are looking at a highly crafted, highly manipulative mask?
That is a terrifying thought for a lot of people.
It is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are plunging into a fascinating manual today from a self-described seasoned mind reader.
It is such a brilliant piece of source material.
It really is. And the very first thing this material does is shatter the illusion of the human face. Apparently, our faces have been actively trained to lie to us since we were, about 5 years old?
Yeah, right around there. And if you think about early childhood socialization, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, we are explicitly taught to smile when we receive a disappointing birthday present, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like when grandma gives you socks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or we are taught to look interested when an elder is telling a really boring story. We learn to feign surprise when we already know the punchline.
So we are just conditioned to fake it.
Right. Over decades, the human face becomes this highly educated public relations manager for the brain.
A public relations manager. That is exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, its primary job is not to reflect the truth. Its job is to maintain social harmony.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is basically to fire the PR manager.
I love that. Yes, fire the PR manager.
We are going to bypass the face entirely today and decrypt human body language using the actual biology of the brain.
Because that is where the real truth lives.
Exactly. We are going to map out how to read a room, how to tell when someone is secretly panicking, and, this is my favorite part, even how to hack your own internal confidence.
Which is so crucial.
But before we get into the specific tells, like, what someone's hands or feet are doing, we have to understand the engine driving all of this.
The underlying hardware.
Right. The manual makes it very clear that this is not magic. It is biology.
It is pure, unfiltered evolutionary biology.
So break that down for us.
Yeah.
Why does the body betray the mind?
Well, to understand that, you have to understand the limbic system. The human brain isn't just one uniform computer, right? It's this layered architecture.
Yeah.
The outermost layer, the prefrontal cortex, is the logical, reasoning, socially aware part of you.
That is the PR manager we were just talking about.
Exactly. But buried deep underneath that is the limbic system. This is the ancient, primitive, paleomammalian brain. It is your ultimate survival engine.
And the defining characteristic of the limbic system, at least according to the source material, is that it has zero social filter.
None whatsoever. It doesn't care about being polite.
It just wants to keep you alive.
It doesn't even know what the word polite means. Its only imperative is to keep you alive and comfortable.
Right.
And crucially, it processes information and reacts milliseconds faster than the prefrontal cortex.
Wait, really? Milliseconds faster?
Oh, absolutely. When a stimulus enters your environment, whether that is a sudden loud noise or just a really uncomfortable question in a meeting, your limbic system reacts instantly.
Before you even realize you are stressed.
Yes. It sends electrical signals down your nervous system to your muscles before your conscious, logical brain even has time to formulate a cohesive thought.
That neurological lag is fascinating. The conscious brain is literally playing catch-up.
It really is. So when we talk about reading body language, we are simply learning to observe that limbic leakage.
Limbic leakage, I like that phrase.
Yeah, we are watching the survival instinct manifest in physical reality in those precious milliseconds before the PR manager can step in and hide it.
Okay, so if we want to catch those unfiltered limbic signals, where do we look? Because the manual does something incredibly counterintuitive here.
It really flips the script.
It does. It tells us to start looking at the absolute furthest point from the brain. It wants us to start with the feet.
And it's a brilliant starting point because of the neuropathway logic.
Right. Explain that logic.
Well, the further a body part is from the central processing hub of the conscious brain, that prefrontal cortex, the less conscious control we exert over it.
That makes total sense. We are intensely, constantly aware of our facial expressions.
Right. And we are moderately aware of what our hands are doing.
But our feet, I mean, unless you are actively thinking about your feet at this exact moment, they are entirely on autopilot.
Completely. They're being completely governed by the limbic system.
I was reading this and thinking about how often my feet are just doing their own thing under a desk during a meeting.
Oh, all the time.
The text points out that our feet are the literal instruments of the run, fight, or freeze response.
They are our primary survival tools.
Right. When the limbic brain perceives a threat, it doesn't send a memo to the eyes. It sends blood and adrenaline to the legs so you can escape.
Exactly.
But the threat doesn't have to be a physical predator anymore. Right. We aren't running from bears in the boardroom.
No, but the thing is, our brains haven't updated their hardware to distinguish between a physical threat and a social one.
So the circuitry is completely identical.
Completely identical. If you are standing at a networking event, right, and you are cornered by someone telling an agonizingly long, boring story.
We've all been there.
Right. Your conscious brain says, well, be polite, keep smiling, do not offend them.
Because that is the PR manager talking.
Exactly. But your limbic system registers the boredom and that trapped feeling as a literal survival threat.
So it starts screaming at your feet to escape.
Yes, it wants to escape the immediate environment immediately.
Which leads to this incredible phenomenon the manual describes. You are talking to someone, and their torso is facing you, right?
Yeah, they seem engaged.
They're giving you all the polite eye contact and the nods, but if you look down, their lead foot is angled 45 degrees away from you, pointing straight toward the nearest exit.
It is such a common tell.
I was trying to visualize this while reading, and it's like a getaway car sitting in an alley.
Oh, there is a great analogy.
Right. The driver is casually chatting with you out the window, but the engine is running and the tires are already angled toward the street.
The getaway car is the perfect analogy because the body is literally idling.
Idling. Wow.
That phenomenon is called ventral denial. The physical form is primed for departure.
So the muscles are literally tense, ready to move.
Yes, the muscular tension in that leg has subtly shifted. It is preparing to bear the weight of the body and propel it away from the conversation.
Okay, so if you are the person pitching an idea and you see that foot angled toward the door like that, what does that actually mean for you?
It means you have already lost them.
Ouch. Really?
Yeah. Their heart might appear to be with you. Their words might be encouraging, but neurologically, they have already left the room.
The limbic system has just checked out.
It has withdrawn its presence. If you see that getaway car idling, you need to either radically change your approach, ask them a highly engaging question to reset them, or honestly just wrap up the meeting.
That is powerful. Okay, so we know what it looks like when the feet want to flee, but the manual also details what the feet do when the brain is incredibly happy.
Yes, the positive signals.
It describes the subtle bouncing motion. Someone is sitting there and their toes or their heels are just lightly bouncing up and down.
Ugh. Yes, happy feet. Or what the text formally refers to as the gravity defier.
Gravity defier.
This is a high comfort, high reward signal. When the limbic system is flooded with positive neurochemicals, dopamine, endorphins, the body experiences a literal surge of kinetic energy.
So it just has to move.
Right. It is an unconscious attempt to defy gravity because the brain feels so light and victorious.
You see this in toddlers all the time when you hand them a cookie. They literally bounce.
While toddlers are pure limbic systems, they have no PR managers yet.
That is so true. But adults do it too, just more subtly, right?
Absolutely. You might see it under the boardroom table.
Like a hidden celebration.
Exactly. A CEO is maintaining a perfectly stoic poker face during a negotiation.
They look totally unbothered.
Right. But the moment the opposing side offers a number they secretly love, their heels start doing a micro bounce against the carpet.
So the face is lying, but the feet are celebrating.
Precisely.
I am literally going to be staring at everyone's shoes in my next meeting.
You'll be amazed at what you see.
No, there is another foot position the manual highlights that seems almost like the opposite of the getaway car.
Which one?
It's when two people are standing and talking, and one of them crosses one leg in front of the other. So they're essentially standing on one straight leg with the other foot crossed over, balancing on the toe.
The standing leg.
Yeah. The text claims this is the ultimate sign of feeling safe. But why?
It all comes back to evolutionary vulnerability.
Okay, walk us through that.
By crossing your legs while standing, you have intentionally destroyed your own center of gravity.
Oh, because you can't balance properly.
Right. You have drastically reduced your physical mobility. From that cross-legged stance, you cannot easily run away, and you certainly cannot fight.
You just fall over.
Exactly. Your limbic system is highly aware of this physical disadvantage. Therefore, it will only allow your body to adopt this precarious posture if it has surveyed the environment and decided there is absolutely zero threat present. So if a colleague assumes this posture while chatting with you in the hallway, they are unconsciously signaling a profound level of comfort and trust in your presence.
That is actually really nice to know. Wait, what if they are sitting down? Does a seated leg cross mean the same thing?
Not necessarily. Sitting leg crosses can just be about joint comfort.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the manual points out a very specific seated posture to watch out for. It's when a person places their hands flat on their knees, lifts their heels off the ground, and leans their torso forward.
Right, the manual calls this the starter's position.
Yes. And think about the biomechanics of how a human being stands up from a chair.
Yeah, to lean forward.
You have to shift your weight forward and use your hands for leverage. Those are the mandatory prerequisites for standing.
So if you are speaking and the person across from you shifts into that starter's position,
They aren't leaning in because they are fascinated by your story.
they are getting ready to bolt.
They have physically primed their body to rise. Their brain is already executing the exit sequence.
It is amazing how much the lower body is screaming at us if we just pay attention to it.
It really is a constant broadcast.
But let's move the camera up a bit. We know the feet are trying to run away from danger, but what exactly are they trying to protect?
The core.
Right. The source material takes us from the extremities to the core of the body, the torso.
Because the torso houses the vital organs. The heart, the lungs, the digestive tract.
In biological terms, this is the payload.
Exactly. This is the area a predator will instinctively target to execute a lethal attack.
So the limbic system must be obsessively protective of this region.
Obsessively.
The text refers to this area as the ventral front and talks about how we use a heart shield to protect it. Now, I have to stop here and push back on something.
Oh, please do.
When we talk about protecting the torso, the first thing everyone thinks of is crossed arms.
The classic crossed arms.
Right. Every single pop psychology blog says that if someone crosses their arms, they are defensive or angry or blocking you out.
It is the most common trope.
But I cross my arms all the time simply because the studio is freezing, or honestly, just because it's a comfortable place to rest my heavy arms. It doesn't mean I am angry with you.
And your instinct to push back on that is entirely correct.
Oh, good.
The manual emphatically agrees with you. It calls the crossed arms assumption one of the most pervasive myths in amateur body language analysis.
Because it's just too simplistic.
Exactly. Yes, crossing the arms can be defensive, but it is very often just about temperature regulation or, like you said, joint comfort in a chair without armrests.
So how do we actually read the torso then?
To truly read the torso, we have to stop obsessing over the arms and focus on the orientation of the ventral front itself.
So it is not about the barrier in front of the chest, it's about where the chest is actually pointing?
Precisely. The limbic system operates on a strict binary of exposure.
Exposure. Okay, explain that.
When we feel safe, comfortable, and trusting, we expose our ventral front to the person we are with. We square our shoulders directly to them.
We face them completely.
Yes. But when we feel threatened, intimidated, or even just mildly resentful of someone, we pivot.
We turn away.
We turn our vital organs away from the source of the discomfort.
Let's break down some of the specific torso signals the manual gives us, because there are some nuances to the arms that do matter, right?
Oh, there are definitely exceptions where the arms tell a huge story.
For instance, it describes a variation of crossed arms called the self-hug. This is when the arms are crossed, but the hands are tucked really tightly under the biceps, and the person might even be rubbing their own arms.
The key differentiator there is the application of pressure.
Pressure, right.
When the hands are tucked and actively squeezing the sides, it is a self-soothing gesture. The person is physically holding themselves together.
Like giving themselves a hug.
Literally. Applying deep pressure to the torso actually stimulates the vagus nerve and helps lower a spiking heart rate.
Wow, so it's a biological response to internal anxiety.
Exactly. It's internal medication.
But the manual points out a fascinating exception to this crossed arm thing. What if the arms are crossed, but the thumbs are pointing straight up, resting outside the fold of the arms.
That completely inverts the meaning of the posture.
Really? Just the thumbs?
Just the thumbs. When the thumbs are sticking up like little flagpoles, that is a profound display of high status and superiority.
So they aren't anxious at all?
Not even a little. They are protecting their chest, yes.
Mhm.
But the exposed, upward-pointing thumbs are a universal signal of high confidence.
That's fascinating.
You often see doctors, lawyers, or executives adopt this exact pose when they are feeling particularly authoritative in a room.
The thumbs as an ego barometer, I love that so much. We will definitely get more into the hands later.
Oh, there's so much on hands.
But sticking with the torso for a minute, there is a behavior the text calls the lint picker.
Ah, yes, the lint picker.
Have you ever been talking to someone and right as you make a controversial point, they suddenly look down and start picking a microscopic imaginary piece of lint off their sweater?
It is incredibly common and honestly incredibly frustrating when you are trying to make a serious point.
It really is. The manual identifies this as a displacement gesture. What is actually happening in their brain when they do that?
Well, a displacement gesture occurs when the brain experiences a massive cognitive short circuit between two conflicting desires.
A short circuit.
In the lint picking scenario, the person's limbic system strongly disagrees with what you just said.
So wants to fight.
Right, its instinct is to argue, yell, or just turn away entirely. But their social PR manager knows that storming off or yelling is completely inappropriate in a business setting.
So the brain is basically trapped between fight and be polite.
Exactly. So all that aggressive limbic energy has to go somewhere. It displaces into a totally irrelevant physical action.
Like picking lint.
Yes. Picking at the clothes allows them to break eye contact, slightly angle their torso downward, which protects that ventral front, and physically dismiss you without having to say a single combative word.
It's a polite physical manifestation of total rejection.
It really is.
The manual's advice here is stark. It says if you are pitching an idea and your client starts picking lint, stop talking immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have internally rejected your premise.
You are just wasting your breath at that point.
You need to pause and ask them what their concerns are, because their body is screaming that they have them.
On the flip side of all this defense, what does it look like when the torso is completely unguarded? The manual calls it the ventral flash.
Think about the moment you see a beloved friend you haven't seen in years across a crowded room.
Oh, you just light up.
What does your body do? Your arms fly open wide, your shoulders pull back, and you physically thrust your chest forward as you walk toward them.
You are completely opening up.
You are flashing your most vulnerable biological real estate directly to them. It is a profound, nonverbal declaration that says, I trust you with my life.
That is actually really beautiful when you think about it biologically.
It is.
But the opposite of that, the most insidious torso movement, is what the text calls the cold shoulder. And it's not just a metaphor in this manual, it's a very specific micro movement.
It is literal ventral denial.
How subtle is it?
Very. If you are interacting with someone they deeply dislike, their PR manager will force their face to smile and force their eyes to maintain contact.
All right, playing the game.
But the limbic system will subtly pivot the hips and the shoulders just 10 or 15 degrees away.
10 degrees! That is almost nothing. It's a tiny, tiny pivot.
But geometrically, it is highly significant.
Why?
By shifting just a few degrees, they are drastically reducing the exposed surface area of their vital organs to a perceived threat.
They are subconsciously sliding their heart out of your direct line of fire.
Precisely. If you see that slight shoulder turn, you are witnessing the limbic system quietly trying to protect itself from you.
Okay, so we have established how the body grounds itself with the feet and how it protects its core with the torso.
The foundations.
Right. But humans do not just exist in a vacuum. We interact with the physical world around us. That brings us to how the body claims territory, which the manual categorizes as the geography of power.
This is a huge transition. We're moving from self-protection to spatial dominance.
And there's a scientific term for this, right?
Yes, proxemics. It is the study of how humans utilize physical space and how the density of that space affects our neurological state.
The manual says every single human, walks around inside an invisible, highly calibrated, heavily guarded bubble of space.
We all have our bubbles.
And it actually puts a literal tape measure to this bubble. It breaks human interaction down into 4 exact spatial zones.
The zones are fascinating because they're so universal.
Right. If you are listening to this, maybe on your commute, try to visualize these invisible boundaries around yourself. First, we have the intimate zone.
That is 0 to roughly 18 inches away from your body.
18 inches. That is very close.
That is highly restricted airspace. The intimate zone is reserved exclusively for lovers, children, and closest family members.
So what happens if a stranger breaches it?
If a stranger, or even a casual acquaintance, physically breaches that 18-inch radius, your amygdala, which is the brain's threat detector, fires a massive alarm.
Just a total panic response.
Your heart rate instantly spikes, your muscles tense, and your body prepares to defend itself.
The next layer out from that is the personal zone, which is 18 inches to about 4 feet.
That's the comfortable bubble for close friends and informal conversations.
And beyond that is the social zone, 4 to 12 feet.
The social zone is the optimal, neurologically comfortable distance for business meetings, interacting with new acquaintances, or talking to a clerk at a store.
Why that specific distance?
It allows for clear verbal communication while maintaining enough physical distance that the limbic system doesn't feel vulnerable to a sudden physical strike.
It's a safety buffer.
Exactly.
And finally, there is the public zone, which is anything beyond 12 feet. Think of a teacher at the front of a classroom or a speaker on a stage. Knowing these zones completely reframes everyday awkwardness. Like, think about the last time you were in a crowded elevator.
Oh, the worst.
Why does it feel so deeply, viscerally uncomfortable? It's because the architecture of the elevator forces total strangers directly into your intimate zone.
Exactly. It is a profound, involuntary limbic intrusion.
So what does the human body do to cope with that intrusion?
We try to psychologically minimize our physical presence.
How?
We lock our arms tight to our sides, we stare blankly up at the changing floor numbers, and we avoid eye contact at all costs.
Just dead silence, looking at the ceiling.
We are trying to signal to everyone else in the box, I know I am in your intimate zone, but I promise I am not a threat.
That makes so much sense. But what happens when someone doesn't want to minimize their presence? What happens when they want to actively use space to assert dominance?
That is a different game entirely.
The manual details a behavior called territorial spreading.
Look at the animal kingdom. When a bear or a primate wants to intimidate a rival, what does it do?
It stands up and puffs out its chest.
Right, it makes its physical form appear as massive as possible.
Yeah.
Humans do the exact same thing, but because we wear suits and sit in conference rooms, we use our belongings as extensions of our physical form.
The big table move.
Yes.
The manual paints a really vivid picture of a negotiation here. One person sits down, deeply insecure, and keeps their notebook, their pen, and their coffee cup tucked into a tight, neat little 6-inch square right in front of their chest.
They are minimizing. They are taking up as little space as possible.
Right. But the power player sits down, tosses their laptop a foot to the left, throws their phone a foot to the right, and places their coffee cup way out in the center of the table.
They are non-verbally claiming real estate.
Like spreading their wings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are extending their territorial borders to broadcast to everyone else in the room, I own this space.
And the manual offers a fantastic, really practical piece of advice here regarding boundary testing.
This is crucial for corporate environments.
It says if you are in a meeting and someone slowly starts inching their papers or their coffee cup across the invisible midline of the table into your physical space.
They are subconsciously testing your dominance.
They are literally poking the fence to see if it is electrified.
Precisely. And the recommended response is absolutely crucial.
What do you?
Do not pull your own items back. Do not shrink your borders, hold your ground, or even subtly advance your own items forward.
Fight back with the coffee cup.
Yes, it non-verbally establishes that you cannot be intimidated out of your territory.
I absolutely love that. Defend your invisible property lines. Now, spreading out horizontally on a table is one thing, but there is also vertical space.
Verticality is primal.
The text notes that the ancient lizard brain fundamentally equates physical height with hierarchical power.
The taller the primate, the more dominant the primate.
So how does this manifest in a modern office?
It manifests in how we use our posture to take up vertical real estate. If you are sitting in a chair, leaning back, opening up your chest, and maybe draping an arm over the backrest, you are maximizing your visual footprint.
You look huge.
You are projecting absolute safety and high status.
But if you are standing up, the manual warns against a very specific posture that destroys your vertical status. It calls it the fig leaf pose.
The fig leaf is incredibly common when people are nervous, especially when speaking in public.
What does it look like?
It is standing with your hands clasped tightly together, resting squarely over your groin.
Oh, like a soccer player forming a wall during a free kick.
Exactly like that. And the biological reasoning is undeniable. You are literally deploying your hands as a physical shield over your reproductive organs to guard against an anticipated attack.
Wow.
It is the posture of prey. It completely subverts any vertical height you might have and projects deep limbic submission to the entire room.
Speaking of what we do with our hands, this transitions perfectly into the manual's exploration of hand speak.
The hands are incredibly communicative.
And the manual asks a question here that genuinely blew my mind. Why do hidden hands, like someone standing with their hands buried deep in their pockets or hidden behind their back, make us feel so uneasy?
It goes all the way back to the ultimate evolutionary weapon check.
Weapon check.
Yes. For hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution, the primary lethal threat to your existence wasn't a bad performance review.
Right.
It was another human being holding a rock, a sharpened stick, or a blade.
So the brain evolved a strict security protocol.
Before I can relax around this person, I must verify that their hands are empty.
So if you can't see their hands, your limbic system simply cannot complete the security clearance. Hidden hands equate to hidden motives.
Exactly. The primitive brain registers an unknown variable as a potential threat.
So just taking your hands out of your pockets.
Simply by keeping your hands visible, resting openly on a table, or gesturing naturally, you're actively dampening the stress levels of the people around you.
You are continuously broadcasting, I am unarmed.
Precise.
Once the hands are visible, their orientation becomes incredibly important. The manual breaks down a fundamental binary, palms up versus palms down.
This is the absolute foundation of handspeak.
Let's start with palms up.
An open, upward-facing palm is the universal gesture of invitation and submission. Think about our cultural rituals.
Like taking an oath.
We take oaths with an open palm. We hold our hands palms up when we are pleading, begging, or trying to explain a complex idea.
It's very welcoming.
The exposed palm shows there is nothing hidden, and the upward angle leaves the wrist completely vulnerable. It is neurologically impossible for a listener's brain to feel threatened or attacked by a palm-up gesture.
But then you flip the wrist, the palm-down gesture. The text calls this the lion tamer move.
Turning the palm down transforms the hand from an invitation into an authoritative command.
It feels very dominant.
It is a literal stopping motion.
Yeah.
You are pressing down on the invisible space between you and the listener. It is highly effective if you need to take control of a chaotic room or assert sudden dominance.
But the manual warns that it must be used sparingly.
Very sparingly.
Because if you constantly use palm-down gestures, people stop seeing you as a strong leader and start seeing you as a tyrant.
Exactly. It forces the viewer into a submissive posture, and people inherently resent that.
Now, this leads to a debate I really wanted to have.
Okay, let's hear it.
The manual explicitly states that we should completely stop pointing with our index fingers.
Yes, it is very firm on that.
And I read that and thought, well, come on. If someone asks where the restroom is and I point down the hall, I'm just being practical. How is that aggressive?
Consciously, your intention is entirely helpful. But remember, we are communicating with the other person's limbic system, not their logical brain.
Right, the primitive brain.
When you extend a single index finger and point it at someone or something, you are visually recreating the geometric profile of a weapon.
Like a spear.
A spear, a dart, or a club.
The manual literally calls it a symbolic club.
Yes. That sharp visual point, piercing the space between you, triggers a microflinch in the receiver's ancient brain.
Even if I'm just pointing at the bathroom.
Even then, it feels like an accusation or an attack, even in a benign context. It raises their defensive shields.
So what should we do instead?
The manual suggests a brilliant, subtle alternative. If you need to direct someone's attention, use an open hand, palm up, to gesture toward the object.
Just gesture with the whole hand.
It completely changes the dynamic from an aggressive command to a welcoming invitation.
That is such a simple, elegant tweak. Point with an open hand, not the finger spear.
It makes a massive difference.
So moving from pointing to holding, how do the hands display confidence versus anxiety? The text contrasts two very specific hand formations, the steeple and the clutch.
The steeple is the physical embodiment of executive confidence.
What does it look like?
It is formed by lightly touching the fingertips of both hands together, while keeping the palms separated, forming a tent or a steeple shape,
Oh, you see politicians doing this all the time during interviews.
because they're highly trained to do it. The steeple communicates, I possess the knowledge, I am secure in my position, and I am thoughtfully considering the situation.
It looks very composed.
It requires fine motor control and a relaxed posture.
But what happens when the pressure gets too high? The text says that steeple collapses into the clutch.
The clutch is the antithesis of the steeple.
So the fingers fold in?
The fingers suddenly interlace tightly, the hands squeeze together, and the knuckles might even turn white from the pressure.
Like they're gripping onto a lifeline.
It is a profound self-restraint gesture. The person is literally grappling with themselves, holding their own hands back from trembling or from lashing out.
So when you see a steeple collapse into a clutch,
You are watching a person's internal confidence evaporate in real time. They are now experiencing acute cognitive or emotional stress.
that is wild. And we
Well-
can't leave the hands without revisiting the thumbs, the status bar, as we called them.
The thumbs are crucial.
We mentioned them sticking up during the crossed arm self-hug earlier, but the thumbs communicate status no matter where the hands are, right?
The thumb is uniquely communicative. If a person is standing with their hands shoved into their front pockets, but they intentionally leave both thumbs sticking out, resting against the fabric.
Which you see guys do a lot.
Yes. Their ego is soaring. They're feeling dominant, attractive, and entirely in control of their environment.
But if those thumbs disappear, if they tuck them completely inside the pockets or curl their fingers tightly around them to hide them in a fist,
Then the status bar has dropped to zero.
just zero confidence.
Hidden thumbs are a universal signal of diminished self-esteem, insecurity, or total defeat. They are symbolically hiding their strength.
It is wild how the body broadcasts our deepest insecurities, which brings us perfectly to the next major phase of our deep dive.
The stress response.
Yes, we have mapped how the body claims space when it feels powerful. But what happens when the invisible bubble is breached? What happens when the limbic system realizes it is trapped and begins to actually panic?
This is where we examine the physiology of the stress response. When things go wrong, the internal pressure skyrockets, and the body desperately tries to soothe itself.
The manual introduces this concept of limbic pacifiers.
That's a great term.
I was trying to wrap my head around this, and the best analogy I could come up with is a steam engine.
Okay, like that.
Like when you ask someone a terrifying question or they realize they have been caught in a lie, their internal engine revs up, the pressure builds and builds.
Right.
If they do not release that pressure, the psychological boiler will literally explode. So their hand instinctively flies up to touch a specific part of their body to act as a release valve for the steam.
That is a mechanically perfect analogy. But the biological reality of how that steam is released is even more fascinating.
What's happening biologically?
It revolves around two specific anatomical features,
Yeah.
the vagus nerve and the carotid sinus.
Break that down for us. Why those specific spots?
Well, when the amygdala detects a threat, it dumps massive amounts of adrenaline into the bloodstream.
The fight or flight juice.
Exactly. Your heart rate accelerates dramatically to prepare for action. To counteract this terrifying internal sensation, humans have evolved to subconsciously stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs down the sides of the neck,
Okay.
and the carotid sinus, located right near the carotid artery. These areas are absolutely packed with sensitive nerve endings.
So touching them does what?
By physically touching, massaging, or stroking these areas, we send a mechanical signal down the neural pathway directly to the heart, ordering it to slow its rhythm.
So we are literally physically medicating our own nervous system with touch.
We are our own biological pharmacists.
That is incredible. And the manual details 4 highly specific pacifiers we use to administer this medicine.
Yes, starting with ventilation.
Right, ventilation. This is when you see someone hook a finger under their shirt collar and pull it away from their skin, or maybe lift their heavy hair off the back of their neck.
Think about the physical reality of the fight-or-flight response. When adrenaline spikes, blood rushes to the surface of the skin and the muscles to provide oxygen for action.
Getting ready to run or fight.
Exactly. This physiological shift generates massive amounts of internal body heat. A person under acute stress is literally burning up from the inside.
So pulling the collar isn't just a nervous twitch?
No, it's an attempt to vent real physical heat. They're trying to physically cool down their limbic engine.
If you are questioning an employee about a missing file and they suddenly stretch their collar,
You have just touched a nerve that generated a massive heat spike.
wow, The second pacifier is incredibly specific. It's the suprasternal notch.
This is a very primal one.
For those listening, this is that little hollow dimple right at the base of your throat, right where your collarbones meet. The manual says people will suddenly cover that dimple with their hand when they're stressed, but why that specific spot?
It's the windpipe. It is the most vital, vulnerable access point on the human body.
The ultimate weak point.
Yes. In the wild, predators instinctively target the throat to neutralize prey. Therefore, the limbic system treats the suprasternal notch as the ultimate vulnerable zone.
So covering it is a shield.
Covering it with a hand is a profound, involuntary protective reflex. If you are having a conversation and their hand leaps up to cover that notch, the precise moment you bring up a specific project's budget,
You have just found the pain point.
you have just located their deepest point of vulnerability.
It's a literal shield. The third pacifier moves up to the head, the forehead rub,
Very common in boardrooms.
and the text is quick to point out that this isn't about someone having a migraine. We aggressively rub our foreheads or massage our temples when we are dealing with extreme cognitive load.
Cognitive load, yes.
What does that mean in this context?
Cognitive load is the measure of how hard the prefrontal cortex is working to process information or maintain a narrative.
Okay.
Telling the truth is cognitively easy. You just access a memory and report it.
But lying is hard.
Fabricating a lie, remembering the fake details, monitoring your own body language, and analyzing the listener's reaction all at the exact same time requires immense neurological horsepower.
The brain is basically maxing out its RAM.
Exactly. When the brain strains that hard, blood flow shifts, and internal pressure mounts. Rubbing the forehead is a subconscious attempt to literally rub away the mental friction.
Like trying to physically soothe the processor.
The physical sensation on the skin distracts the brain from the overwhelming internal processing task.
The final pacifier the manual highlights often happens completely out of sight down under a table. It's the leg scrub.
The leg scrub is a fascinating dual-purpose action.
Someone is sitting down, right, and they repeatedly, firmly wipe their palms down their thighs from the hip toward the knee.
Right. There's a dual purpose here. Firstly, a highly stressed limbic system triggers the sweat glands, particularly in the palms.
So they are literally just wiping away sweat.
There is a practical element of wiping away perspiration, yes. But more importantly, it is the rhythmic, repetitive friction of the hands against the thighs that provides the soothing effect.
The rhythm is calming.
It pacifies the nervous system through repetitive motion.
It almost looks like they are trying to physically wipe their hands clean of the entire situation.
Which is symbolically exactly what the brain wants to do.
Now, the body's stress response isn't just something you can see. It is something you can hear.
This is where we get into audio.
The manual shifts from tactile pacifiers to vocal leakage, specifically focusing on paralanguage.
Paralanguage is so revealing.
What exactly is paralanguage?
It encompasses everything about how you speak, entirely independent of the actual words you're using. It is the pitch, the volume, the pacing, and the timbre of the voice.
So it's the music, not the lyrics.
Exactly. And the mechanism that dictates paralanguage is what makes it so important. Your vocal cords are controlled by the exact same autonomic nervous system that controls your heart rate and your sweat glands.
Meaning just like you can't force your pupils to dilate.
You cannot entirely fake your paralanguage under pressure.
Right.
When you experience acute stress, the muscles throughout your body tense up. The muscles in your throat and neck are absolutely no exception.
So the throat literally tightens.
As those muscles constrict around the larynx, they mechanically pull the vocal cords tighter.
Like tightening the strings on a guitar.
That is the perfect analogy. And the physical result of taut vocal cords is a higher pitch.
The manual calls this the pitch spike.
The pitch spike, yes.
It notes that you might ask someone a question, and their response, or even just one specific word in their response, comes back a fraction of an octave higher than their baseline voice.
And that higher pitch isn't a choice. It is the acoustic manifestation of a muscle spasm in their throat caused by acute anxiety.
So if they are talking about a timeline and their voice cracks upward on the word Friday,
You have just found the acoustic hotspot. Friday is where the lie lives.
that is so cool. But the vocal leakage isn't just about pitch, it's heavily tied to pacing as well, the speed of the speech.
Yes, speed is a huge indicator of cognitive load.
The text explains that people under pressure will drastically alter how fast they talk. Sometimes a liar will talk a mile a minute. They just want to eject the lie from their mouth as fast as possible to escape the discomfort.
Just get it over with.
Right. But the opposite is also true. Sometimes They talk agonizingly slow. Why do they slow down?
Because they are scripting.
Scripting.
When a person is building a lie in real time, their prefrontal cortex has to meticulously review every single word before it signals the mouth to speak, ensuring there are no logical contradictions in the story.
They are writing the script live.
Yes, this internal review process causes significant neurological latency. Any sudden drastic deceleration from a person's normal speaking rhythm is a massive red flag indicating heavy cognitive strain.
Which leads to my absolute favorite vocal tell in the entire manual.
The buffer.
Yes, it's an acoustic stall tactic called the verbal buffer.
It's so common.
You ask a simple question, like, did you authorize that bank transfer? And instead of just saying yes or no, they say, did I authorize that bank transfer? That is a really interesting question, let me think.
Right. They are not complimenting your interrogation skills.
Not at all. They are repeating your question to buy themselves time.
The manual says repeating a question buys the brain roughly 3 extra seconds.
Which sounds like nothing.
But 3 seconds is an absolute eternity for the brain to manufacture a plausible lie.
It is the verbal equivalent of the getaway car idling. They are stalling the interaction while they map out an escape route.
Beautifully put.
Okay, so we have covered the honest feet, the protective torso, the hands, the pacifiers, and the voice. The pressure has been building this entire time, and we are finally arriving at the face.
Finally.
But as we established right at the beginning, we are not looking at the social mask.
No, the PR manager is useless to us.
We are looking for the cracks in the mask, the involuntary reflexes that the PR manager cannot control.
We must look past the muscles that craft a fake smile and stare directly into the eyes.
And right out of the gate, the manual tackles the most famous body language myth of all time, the classic interrogation room trope.
Look me in the eye.
Look me in the eye and tell me you didn't do it. We are all taught that if someone can't look you in the eye, they're lying.
Which is a very dangerous assumption.
But wait, if we are dealing with psychopaths or even just professional con artists who don't feel guilt, doesn't that throw this whole theory out the window? How can we rely on eye contact if they do not care that they are lying?
That is exactly why relying on eye contact evasion is so dangerous and why the manual debunks it so thoroughly.
Okay, explain why it's a myth.
Professional liars, and certainly those with antisocial personality traits, do not experience the same autonomic stress response to deception that the rest of us do.
They just don't feel the spike in heart rate.
Right. Furthermore, even average liars are intimately familiar with the look me in the eye myth.
We all grew up hearing it.
They know you expect them to look away if they're lying. Therefore, a skilled deceiver will consciously force themselves to maintain eye contact.
So they will just stare right back at you.
In fact, they will often stare at you more intensely when lying because they are meticulously monitoring your microexpressions to see if you're actually swallowing their fabrication.
So if they're staring a hole through me, how do I know if they're lying?
You look deeper.
The manual points us away from the gaze itself and toward the autonomic biology of the eye, specifically the ciliary muscle and the expansion of the pupils.
The eyes are biologically fascinating because they are essentially an exposed portion of the brain.
That is wild to think about.
You have absolutely zero conscious control over the dilation and constriction of your pupils. The pupil is governed entirely by the autonomic nervous system's instantaneous evaluation of the environment.
The text uses two clinical terms to describe this, mydriasis and meiosis. Walk us through those.
Mydriasis is the scientific term for pupil dilation. The pupil rapidly expands, opening up to let maximum light into the eye.
Like turning up the exposure on a camera.
Exactly. Biologically, the brain triggers this expansion when we are presented with a positive stimulus, a prize.
A prize? Like what?
It could be looking at a loved one, seeing a delicious meal, or looking at a fantastic hand of poker. The brain wants this positive thing, so it physically opens the optical aperture to gather as much visual data about the prize as possible.
And the opposite is meiosis.
Correct. Meiosis is pupil constriction. The pupil violently shrinks, becoming a tiny pinpoint to block out light.
Why would it do that?
The autonomic nervous system triggers meiosis when we see something disgusting, threatening, or something we fundamentally disagree with. The brain perceives a negative stimulus and literally tries to shut it out of the visual cortex by closing the blinds.
So you can sit across from someone, propose a new business strategy, and literally watch their brain accept or reject the idea just by watching the black circles in their eyes expand or shrink.
Yes, it is pure, unfiltered truth.
That is terrifying and amazing. But beyond the pupils, there are structural movements of the eyelids to watch for as well. The manual details something called the eye block.
The eye block is a powerful primitive reflex.
What is it?
It is a slow, heavy blink where the eyelids remain closed for 1 to 2 full seconds. This is not fatigue or dry eyes.
It's an emotional reaction.
When we are presented with catastrophic news or an idea we find utterly abhorrent, our brain momentarily wants to eradicate the visual stimulus associated with that negative information.
It's the adult version of a toddler covering their eyes and thinking you can't see them.
Exactly. The eyelids come down as an emotional shield.
Then there is the squint. Now, I always assume people squinted simply because their vision was blurry or the sun was bright.
Right, the mechanical squint.
But the text argues we squint when we are scrutinizing a mental object.
Yes, the physical act of narrowing the eyes is the brain's attempt to sharpen its focus.
On a thought.
If someone tells you a story that sounds highly improbable, your eyes will naturally narrow. You are visually mimicking the internal cognitive process of peering closely at the details, searching for the flaw in their logic.
Wow. And the final eye tell the manual gives us is about differentiating fake emotion from real emotion. It calls it the eye flash.
This one is so useful for spotting bad acting.
We have all seen someone open a mediocre present and perform a face of pure shock.
Oh, absolutely.
Their mouth falls open, their eyebrows shoot up, and they hold that wide-eyed expression for 5 straight seconds. Oh my goodness, a toaster had no idea.
And that prolonged duration is precisely how you know it is entirely fabricated.
Because it lasts too long.
The manual notes that a genuine eye flash of true autonomic surprise lasts for a fraction of a second.
Less than a second.
Yes. The eyes snap wide open to absorb maximum visual information about the sudden, unexpected event, and then instantly return to normal as the prefrontal cortex begins processing what just happened.
So if it lasts longer than that?
If the widened eyes linger for 2, 3, or 4 seconds, it is a conscious theatrical performance. Real emotion is fleeting. Fake emotion is held in place for the benefit of the audience.
Okay, so we have analyzed the eyes in isolation, but humans are deeply social creatures, and the manual now shifts from looking at individuals to looking at how bodies interact with each other.
The space between people.
It calls this the social dance, focusing heavily on mirroring and rapport.
This is where we transition from individual biology to interpersonal neuroscience. The fundamental principle at play here is isopraxism.
Isopraxism, that sounds like a really heavy medical term. Break that down for us. What is actually happening in the brain?
Isopraxism is the biological drive to mimic the behavior of the species around us. It is governed by a network of mirror neurons located deep in the premotor cortex.
So it's an evolutionary thing.
Very much so. Evolutionarily,
Yeah.
this is how early hominids survived and built tribes. By matching the physical posture, the gait, and the gestures of another human, you non-verbally communicated. I am like you, I belong to your group, therefore, I am not a threat.
So when two modern humans are getting along well,
When they're in deep rapport, these mirror neurons fire rapidly and unconsciously.
it's like an involuntary biological handshake.
I like that.
You see it at coffee shops all the time. Two friends are leaning on their left elbows, both holding their mugs with their right hands, completely unaware that they look like mirrored reflections of each other.
It happens completely automatically.
But the manual says we shouldn't just passively watch this happen. We can actively test this mirroring to see who is actually leading the interaction.
Yes, active testing.
It outlines a test called the posture echo.
The posture echo is a brilliant diagnostic tool for rapport.
How does it work?
If you are interacting with someone and you want to gauge their true comfort level with you, you initiate a subtle but distinct physical shift.
Like what?
For example, if you are both leaning forward, you intentionally lean back into your chair and cross your left leg over your right. And then you simply wait.
And what are you looking for?
If the other person is deeply engaged and their mirror neurons are locked onto you, their biology will compel them to echo that posture.
The manual specifies a strict time limit here. It says if they follow your movement within 30 seconds, you have established deep, authentic rapport.
30 seconds is the window.
But what if they do not? What if I lean forward, really excited about a project, and the other person stays frozen, leaning back with their arms crossed?
The manual terms it the asynchronous wall.
A wall. That sounds bad.
Mismatched physical energy is a massive, glaring indicator of a cognitive or emotional disconnect. If you are highly animated and they are stiff and withdrawn, your mirror neurons are violently clashing.
So they just aren't matching my vibe.
Worse than that, their limbic system is perceiving your enthusiasm not as passion, but as an overwhelming threat.
So how do you fix a broken mirror? I mean, you can't just yell at them to relax and match your energy.
No, you have to reverse engineer the biological connection. You must implement a technique called pacing.
Pacing, what is that?
You consciously suppress your own enthusiasm and adopt their stiff, leaning back posture. You intentionally match their low energy level.
So I become the mirror first.
Exactly. By doing this, you satisfy their mirror neurons and make their limbic system feel safe. Once you have established that shared physical baseline, you slowly begin to lead them.
Leading them back to comfort.
You make gradual, relaxed posture changes, uncrossing your arms, leaning forward slightly, waiting patiently for them to subconsciously follow you back to a state of open comfort.
It really is a highly choreographed neurological dance.
It takes practice, but it works.
And the source material mentions one final, almost unbelievable level of mirroring here, the absolute highest tier of human sync.
It is the synchronization of the autonomic nervous system.
That sounds impossible.
It's rare, but when two people share an intensely profound, genuine connection like deep romantic love, or a moment of shared, intense empathy, their biology literally links up.
What does that look like?
Their breathing aligns, their heart rates match, and incredibly, their pupils will dilate and constrict in perfect unison in response to each other.
Wow.
It is the ultimate display of physiological empathy.
You cannot fake synchronized pupils. It's beautiful. Now, this realization that the body can influence the brain brings us to our final major section today.
The hacking section.
Right. Hacking the system and reading the matrix. Up until now, we have been pretty much passive observers. But the manual pivots dramatically here. It teaches us how to actively manipulate our own biology to change our mental state.
This introduces the scientific concept of embodiment.
Embodiment.
Culturally, we operate under the assumption that the brain is the dictator. If my brain feels sad, it tells my shoulders to slump.
Right. Thought controls action.
But the communication highway between the central nervous system and the musculoskeletal system is absolutely a two-way street. The physical positioning of the body can dictate the chemical state of the brain.
The manual gives a terrifying example of how we accidentally poison our own brains every single day.
Oh, the smartphone posture.
Yes. Think about how millions of people spend their mornings. We wake up, sit on the edge of the bed, and immediately hunch over our glowing smartphones. We round our shoulders, collapse our chests, drop our chins, and physically compress ourselves into tiny balls.
And while you were scrolling through emails, completely oblivious, your physical posture is sending an urgent mechanical message up the vagus nerve directly to the amygdala.
What is the message?
My body's compressed. I am making myself small. I'm in a defensive, submissive, vulnerable state.
And the brain believes it.
The brain interprets this physical input as absolute reality, and it responds chemically. It floods your bloodstream with cortisol, the stress hormone, and simultaneously throttles the production of testosterone, the hormone associated with confidence and risk tolerance.
That is awful.
By simply hunching over a screen for 10 minutes, you are chemically engineering your own anxiety before you've even spoken a word to anyone.
Knowing that, how do we reverse the chemical feedback loop? How do we hack the system to generate confidence instead?
The manual gives us 3 physical hacks.
The first one is world famous, the victory stretch.
The victory stretch is a hardwired, universal human posture.
You stand up, plant your feet wide, throw your arms into a massive V shape high above your head, and tilt your chin up toward the sky.
It proves that this is biological and not just cultural conditioning, is the study of blind athletes.
Right, the manual mentions this.
Athletes who have been entirely blind since birth, who have never visually witnessed another human being winning a race or celebrating a touchdown, will instinctively throw their arms into this exact V shape the moment they cross the finish line.
They just know to do it.
It is deeply encoded into our DNA as the ultimate physical manifestation of triumph, safety, and dominance.
The manual prescribes a specific dosage for this hack. It says, if you hold this expansive pose in private, like in a bathroom stall, for just 2 uninterrupted minutes before a high-stakes presentation.
The physical expansion forces the brain to drastically reduce cortisol levels and spike testosterone.
You walk out chemically primed for success.
It is free chemistry.
The second hack is for when you are already in the room. It's called the loom.
The loom. When we feel intimidated in a meeting, our instinct is to compress, right?
We pull our elbows tightly into our ribs and keep our hands in our laps.
To counteract this, you must loom. You stand at the conference table, lean your torso forward, plant your hands wide apart on the surface of the table, and actively claim horizontal real estate.
Taking up massive space again.
By forcing your body to aggressively occupy maximum territory, you send a powerful somatic signal to the limbic system that you are the apex entity in that space, completely overriding any internal feelings of defensiveness.
And the third internal hack is the breath bridge. This is the manual override button for the fight or flight response.
The breath is the bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind.
When we panic, our breathing becomes rapid and shallow. It stays trapped high up in the chest.
By intentionally focusing on pushing that breath deep down into your belly diaphragmatic breathing, you force the heart rate to slow down.
You use the mechanical, muscular action of the diaphragm to bridge the gap and manually calm the autonomic nervous system.
You are creating a physical rhythm that tells the panicked brain, we are safe. And eventually, the brain believes the body.
Now, having learned to manage our own baseline chemistry, the manual brings every single concept together into what it calls the full decoder.
Putting all the pieces together?
Right. This is the methodology for synthesizing all these disparate physical signals into accurate conclusions. And it begins with a massive, flashing warning sign against what it calls the single signal trap.
This is the exact point where amateurs completely fail.
How so?
Someone reads one article on body language, they see their spouse scratch their nose during an argument, and they immediately scream, "Aha, Pinocchio, you are lying!"
Right. Just jumping to conclusions.
A single physical gesture means absolutely nothing in isolation. Perhaps the room is dusty and their nose simply itched.
Context is everything. To accurately read someone, the manual insists that you must first establish a baseline.
Yes, mapping their normal.
You have to observe them in a neutral, stress-free state first. How fast do they usually talk? How much do their hands normally move? How often do they blink when they're completely relaxed?
Because if you don't map out their normal, you have absolutely no way of spotting a deviation.
Once you have firmly established that baseline, you apply the rule of three.
The rule of three is the scientific standard for observation.
What does it entail?
It requires you to spot a cluster of 3 distinct limbic-driven deviations occurring within a highly concentrated time frame, typically a 5-second window surrounding a specific stimulus.
Give me an example.
For example, if you ask a difficult question and the person, 1, vigorously rubs the back of their neck, 2, angles their lead foot toward the door, and 3, their vocal pitch spikes an octave higher than their baseline.
Then you have a cluster.
That is a cluster. That is no longer a random itch or coincidence. You are witnessing a systemic, multi-layered limbic panic attack.
You also have to check for congruence. The manual calls this checking audio versus video.
Audio versus video, yes.
If the words coming out of their mouth, the audio say, "Yes, I completely agree with your plan," but their head is performing a tiny, almost imperceptible microshake side to side, the video says no.
The manual's rule is absolute. Always believe the video.
Believe the body over the words.
The body is neurologically faster and infinitely more honest than the PR manager crafting the words.
Timing is the final piece of the decoder puzzle here. The text highlights 2 critical temporal tells: the pre-answer flinch and the post-event pacifier.
Timing reveals so much.
Let's start with the pre-answer flinch. It exploits that neurological latency we discussed earlier, right?
Yes. It happens in the microsecond gap before a person begins to speak. You deliver a stressful question. Their limbic system reacts instantly with a tiny wince, a tightening of the lips, or a tense shoulder.
And
then, a half second later, the social mask snaps firmly into place, and they deliver a perfectly smooth, rehearsed answer.
the flinch is the unfiltered truth.
And the answer is the PR spin.
And the post-event pacifier is the exact opposite.
Yes, the release valve.
Imagine someone who is highly trained. They maintain absolute perfect composure through a grueling 20-minute interrogation or a high-stakes board meeting.
They look totally fine.
But the literal second the meeting ends, they walk out into the hallway and let out a massive whoosh of exhaled air, or they violently shake out their hands.
That massive, sudden physical release of tension reveals precisely how much extreme stress they were secretly suppressing during the entire event.
Which brings us to the final, most intense, and honestly most advanced section of the manual, the interrogator's edge.
This is where things get aggressive.
This part reads like a spy novel. This is where we transition from merely sitting back and passively observing signals to actively poking the bear to provoke a limbic reaction.
Active testing.
It starts with a verbal tactic called the presumptive poke.
The presumptive poke is a classic.
Instead of asking a standard yes or no question like, "Did you make this accounting error?" which allows the PR manager to simply deploy a rehearsed no.
You presume absolute guilt to shock the system.
You lean in and ask, why did you make this accounting error?
The underlying psychological trap there is just brilliant.
How does the trap work?
If you ask a truly innocent person, why did you do this? Their limbic system will register sudden, genuine shock and righteous outrage because the fundamental premise of the question is entirely alien to their reality.
They will instantly fight back.
They will immediately and forcefully push back. However, if you launch a presumptive poke at a guilty person, their brain experiences a catastrophic processing error.
They freeze.
They need a fraction of a second to calculate variables. Do you actually have proof? Are you bluffing? Should I confess or deny?
That split-second pause.
That hesitation to calculate the odds is the exact moment the deception leaks out.
Another aggressive active tactic is the false detail trap.
Oh, this one is brutal.
You are casually recounting an event with someone you suspect is lying, and you intentionally throw a grenade into the narrative. A detail you know for a fact is entirely wrong.
Like a fake time.
Right. So, you locked up the office at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, when you have camera footage proving it was Thursday.
An innocent person whose memory of the event is organic, fluid, and based on reality will instantly correct you without thinking.
I'll just say, no, what are you talking about? It was Thursday.
Exactly. But a person who has fabricated a story is desperately clinging to a mental script.
So they are afraid to deviate.
When you introduce a wildly false detail, their cognitive load skyrockets. They were so terrified of straying from their script and getting caught in a contradiction that they might just agree with your wrong detail simply to keep the narrative moving forward and avoid a confrontation.
So agreeing to a known false detail is a glaring, massive anomaly that exposes the script.
Yes, it exposes the lie instantly.
Then there is the physical provocation. Space intrusion. We talked about those 4 proxemic zones and the invisible bubbles earlier.
Right, invading the intimate zone.
If you strongly suspect someone is hiding something and verbal pokes aren't working, you deliberately, physically step into their intimate zone closer than 18 inches.
By violently violating their spatial boundaries, you are artificially, aggressively spiking their limbic stress levels.
But what happens?
A truthful person might just step back and look annoyed at your lack of boundaries, but a deceptive person is already using 90% of their cognitive energy to manage the internal stress of the lie.
So adding physical stress breaks them.
When you add the massive external stress of a spatial intrusion, you push their nervous system over the cliff. They will immediately start frantically deploying pacifiers.
Like stroking their neck, ventilating their collar, rubbing their legs.
Because the combined weight of the deception and the physical proximity is simply too much for the brain to handle smoothly.
You are basically turning the burner on the stove up to high just to see if the pot boils over.
That is exactly what you are doing.
And the manual gives us a highly specific, measurable metric to watch when the heat goes up. The blink rate.
The blink rate.
A normal, relaxed human resting blink rate is roughly 15 to 20 blinks per minute. It is steady and unnoticeable.
However, when cognitive load completely surges, when a person is actively juggling a complex, collapsing fabrication under extreme pressure, the blink rate can spontaneously skyrocket.
To what, like 30?
To 60, 70, or even 80 blinks per minute.
80 blinks.
It is a rapid, uncontrollable fluttering. It is the visual manifestation of a biological computer processor literally overheating.
The eyes just start fluttering like butterfly wings. It's wild. But of all the active, aggressive tactics in the manual, my absolute favorite is actually the quietest one.
The silence.
Yes. It requires no words and no movement. It's called the 4-second silence. You ask a highly pointed question, they deliver their carefully crafted answer, and then you do absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
You do not nod, you do not say, okay. Yeah. You just sit there, maintain neutral eye contact, and let 4 agonizingly long seconds tick by.
Silence creates an immense, crushing acoustic vacuum in the room.
And people hate it.
Human beings, especially those raised in Western cultures, are deeply socially conditioned to find dead silence incredibly uncomfortable. We are desperate to fill the void.
So they just start talking.
If someone is holding back critical information, the immense social pressure of that unbroken, staring silence will very often break their resolve. They'll start talking again.
Offering up unnecessary details, rambling justifications, or even accidental admissions.
Simply to relieve the agonizing pressure of the quiet.
They will hang themselves just to hear the sound of their own voice.
It's incredibly effective.
So what does this all mean? We have gone on an absolutely incredible journey today through the hidden language of the human animal.
We really have covered a lot of ground.
We started down at the floor, looking at how our honest feet bounce with dopamine or point toward the getaway car. We moved up past the heart shield, watching out for the defensive self-hug, the subtle 10-degree cold shoulder, and the lint pickers who secretly reject us.
The link pickers are the worst.
They are. We looked at how our bodies aggressively claim space, how the hidden thumbs betray our fragile egos, and how the symbolic club of a pointing index finger can instantly ruin trust.
We examined the deep biological release valves of the vagus nerve and the carotid sinus.
And we learned to hear the acoustic tension of taut vocal cords and the cognitive strain of a slow, scripting pace.
We finally learned to bypass the highly educated PR manager of the face to see the autonomic, unfiltered truth of the dilating pupils.
And we discovered the beautiful, empathetic biological synchronicity of mirror neurons.
The body is amazing.
It is. And finally, we learned how to hack our own endocrine system by expanding our posture to rewrite our brain chemistry, and how to use the scientific rule of 3 to put all these puzzle pieces together into a holistic picture.
But as we wrap up this massive deep dive, the expert who wrote the source material provides a crucial, deeply grounding final thought.
I'm so glad they included this part, because it is easy to take all these tactics and turn into a paranoid interrogator.
Yes, the manual makes it explicitly, beautifully clear. The ultimate goal of becoming a human decoder is absolutely not to play gotcha.
It's not a game.
It is not to walk around your office or your home treating everyone like a hostile suspect in the police interrogation room. If you do that, you will destroy your relationships.
Right. It's not about manipulation. It's about empathy.
Exactly. It is the profound ability to see the fragile, terrified, limbic human being hiding behind the highly trained, perfect social mask.
Seeing the real person.
It's the ability to realize that when your colleague is crossing their arms and shifting their torso away from you, they aren't necessarily angry at you.
They might just be overwhelmed.
They are overwhelmed, stressed, and desperately trying to protect their vital organs from a chaotic environment. It is the quiet power to know when a friend is deeply hurting, even when their PR manager face is smiling brilliantly and insisting that they are completely fine.
True decoding is about facilitating deeper human connection, not just lie detection.
Beautifully said.
That is such a powerful reframe. We aren't hunting for lies. We are listening for the feelings that people are simply too afraid or too socially conditioned to say out loud.
That is the real mission.
So as we end today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final custom-tailored challenge.
Let's hear it.
Take a moment right now. If you are sitting in traffic, if you are walking the dog or sitting at your desk, scan your own body. Where are your feet pointing at this exact second?
Check the feet.
Are your shoulders compressed, quietly sending stress signals up your vagus nerve to your brain? Are your thumbs hidden? What invisible biological signals are you broadcasting to the room around you right this very second?
Because once you become intimately aware of your own limbic broadcast, the entire world opens up to you in high definition.
It really, truly does. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you sit down across that polished mahogany table or in that dimly lit restaurant, stop looking at the perfect smile.
Fire the PR manager.
Exactly. Stop listening to the PR manager.
Yeah.
Go out into the real world and finally start listening to what the bodies around you are actually saying.